left the Isle de France on the 7th of May, and while we have had a fine voyage as of yet, we are experiencing much rain, lightning, and awful thundering. Because the conveyance of letters from countries so distant, we are attended with much uncertainty. If we consider the danger to which ships are subjected from the enemy, from storms, and I'm sending letters by 2 different packets, so that they are more likely to reach you. The expense is nothing, and this I hope will be my apology for writing you too often. But to come to the point, I have been blessed by our imminent arrival and consequent circumstances in China. God reigneth. Head, heart, and hand have been in the Chinese, reading and forming new characters.
Today's travels take us to Colonial Malaysia, starting right here in Malacca.
So this was kind of the front doorstep of Asia, and behind me you see this big Portuguese ship. It's just a recreation, but people came from the Catholic world of Europe to evangelize Asia and use this place as a stepping off point to reach places like Japan. But if you just look around, you will find packed with adventure stories from sailors and captains, and also people coming to share their faith. So we're here on the Flor de la Mar. It's a Portuguese ship, and this ship brought in the 1500s, 1600s, and 1700s all kinds of explorers, pioneers, traders, and preachers, each of them having their own trade that they would ply in addition to what they wanted to do here in Asia.
These people braved the oceans for a reason. They had the light, the good news to bring to people who had never heard it before.
So we're focusing specifically on the 1800s, around the time of 1815 to 1820, an exciting time. Britain controlled this place, and people were getting in to be the light to the nations that they desired to be. And what we'll talk about is the life of 2 or 3 of these people and how they impacted the world well beyond their years.
Maybe the most famous Englishman to come through Malacca in the whole British era was Robert Morrison. He's still a household name in England because he's known as the one who translated the whole Bible into Chinese for the first time in the modern era. He did this mostly from Canton, but China was still far too dangerous, and so he chose Malacca as a place to finalize his work and print. Manning the post here with his wife was a young man named William Milne.
Today, Hayden and I are off on the trail to learn more about this man who printed the Bible and started one of China's oldest modern colleges.
We're standing here outside of Christ Church in downtown Malacca. And this church is hundreds of years old. It was built by the Portuguese. It was handed over to the Dutch. And Milne and Morrison both would have preached here.
But learning the Chinese language was not easy. In fact, a quote from Milne is this: "Learning the Chinese language requires bodies of iron, lungs of brass, hearts of the apostles, memory like the angels, and the lifespan of Methuselah."
I got to work on the language with the same determination with which I began to study in China, namely, to give it a fair trial, and that if I fail, it shall not be for want of labor and application. I do not think I can overcome the difficulties of the language in less than 2 years, so as to be able to speak and write it in a tolerable way. Oh, attempting too much labour for my strength seems to be my fault.
Here I am inside Christ Church, and on the wall is a plaque which is just about the only evidence of the Reverend William Milne, who preached here. William Milne was born in Scotland. He was only 6 years old when his father died, and he was a shepherd until the age of 10. He was saved at the age of 16, and at the age of 19, he moved to a different church, which he felt was more life-giving, a congregational church. William Milne was studying under the preacher at that church who encouraged him, and just 5 years later, he joined the London Missionary Society.
Milne started off in China with Morrison, dodging the authorities and sometimes disguised in Chinese clothes and pigtails. This was long before a later voyager, Hudson Taylor, tried to normalize such things. Because learners of the forbidden language were hunted down, it was deemed unsafe for more than Morrison to stay there. And after a couple of years of mentoring, Morrison sent Milne to Malacca.
In February, after health admitted, I resumed the work of translating, and after many interruptions, have the book of Joshua nearly translated. I trust it will be finished and ready for a first revisal in about a fortnight. I hope Mr. Medhurst may, from his knowledge of printing, be able to assist in what is yet wanting. I have heard of his arrival in Penang, and I am daily looking for him. In the spring of the year, a small fount of Chinese movable metal types was cut in China and sent down here. We are just setting them to work, but from want of the proper ingredients in the metal, we get on very slowly in casting the body of such characters as are necessary to supply the deficiency of the fount. On late calculation, I find that we have, what in China and here together, printed and circulated upwards of 36,000 Chinese tracts and pamphlets, besides the Holy Scriptures.
Did William Milne really finish the Bible that Morrison started?
He did probably as much as Morrison did. But I was surprised to find that finishing and distributing Robert Morrison's Bible wasn't even Milne's biggest accomplishment.
Chun Ko, baptized in China by Morrison, has just arrived to Malacca, and Liang Fa, baptized last year. They continue to attend services, and I believe they are sincere, but very imperfect, Christians. Every Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock, I meet with them, converse and pray, with a view to lead them into a further acquaintance with the sacred scriptures. I have encouraged them to bring me a list of scriptures they do not understand, which I will enclose at the bottom of this letter. I have observed that their questions reflect many of the prejudices of their former systems, and do not have any sense of misunderstanding Mr. Morrison's fine translation work.
Both Robert Morrison and William Milne had always had the dream of reviving education that would introduce theological concepts to the Chinese and empower people in general. What they started is now one of China's oldest modern colleges, built on the model of the old Catholic seminaries.
The foundation stone of the Anglo-Chinese College was laid on November 11th. The walls are now built up to the windows. We have indeed come a long way since the day we started, with 3 primary students in a lone stable. The work in the college so far has yielded good fruit. I doubt not but you will with me consider the scriptures having reached Japan this year and the commencement of the college as 2 very important events in the history of the Alta Ganges missions. Follow them, and I beseech you with ardour and system to send fresh editions of prudent and laborious men.
Well, we are close to Erin Street and Kubu Road, which is supposedly the area where this school was built.
What kind of school was it?
Well, it was a school that kind of combined the classics of China as well as the classics of England, and it was a way of influencing young Chinese at the time, and it was eventually moved to Hong Kong. That's why nobody knows where this school is, but by looking at some old documents and things, they figured out that it's right here. And actually, you can tell it's just a busy intersection with lots of restaurants and kind of an entertainment place. The memory is not 100% gone.
Yeah.
The town of Georgetown was also a place well trodden by the same voyagers who stopped in Malacca. This was to be the place of Milne's final traveling, as his health was failing rapidly.
Well, we've arrived in Penang, and it's been a really interesting journeying through Milne's letters. These are published online, and we've got very well near 100 of them.
So this one was written towards the end of his life when his health was declining.
Yeah. It's dated April 2nd, 1822.
It reads, "In the afternoon, after taking leave of my kind friend the Colonel and his family, I came on board the Free Trader.
Jemima, captained by T.A. Watt, bound to Penang. We arrived 9 days later, stopped at the tavern till I sent for a carriage. But my friends being out of the country, I hired one, went to their house, and found all well. The several days I have been here, I have visited some old acquaintances, but was rather worse than better as to health.